Hi everyone, very good afternoon. I guess you can hear me. If you can hear me and see me, please do give a thumbs up using the reactions tab, which you can find on the bottom of the interface. Thank you. Thank you for confirming. We shall wait for a few more minutes while the other folk join us. I appreciate your patience in this regard. Meanwhile, feel free to explore the interface, get in touch with your fellow participants. Thank you. We'll be starting our webinar very shortly. I hope everyone has joined. With no further delays, let's begin our webinar. I hope you all are doing well. I warmly welcome you to this year-end webinar. Um, Myself, Sendamal Rajan, organizer of this webinar, with me, busy Rebecca Samuel, product expert from Zoho Books support team. Some of you might have been familiar with her as she has featured in other webinars. She has been one of the pillars of our Zoho Books support team. And getting to the topic of the day, uh, navigating year-end accounting seamlessly with Zoho Books. Um, Year-end accounting can be a uphill task for accountants and businesses all around the world. This is because of the nature of the process. There are a lot of steps that are needed to taken care during the short interval at the year end. Tasks like reconciling accounts, balancing books, financial reporting, and new year consideration. We can understand how challenging it can be, but with proper insights and clarity, we can approach any process with confidence. Isn't that true? Keeping that in mind, we are here to demonstrate on how you can leverage the features of Zoho Books in the best way possible to smoothly close your accounts for the current financial year and begin your new fiscal year with clean books. Before getting into the presentation, there are a few things that I like to mention. There will be a Q&A session post this webinar uh, where you can post your queries and doubts. Please do post your queries and doubts on the questions tab, which you can find on the left side of the interface below the people's tab. Please do not use the chat tab, which is below the polls tab, to post your questions. The chat tab is to interact with your fellow participant and reach out to us in case of any technical difficulties during the webinar. I hope I'm clear. Um, with that, I'm handing this webinar over to you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Sentamal. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Bessie Rebecca, a product expert at Zoho Books. And in today's session, we will be covering a few key steps for efficiently closing your books at the year end. As you come to the fiscal year end, it is necessary to ensure a structured and error-free closing process. Proper year-end financial management will help maintain compliance, streamline operations, and set a strong foundation for the next financial year. Let me quickly run you through today's agenda. In this session, we will cover the tasks to be done in essential areas such as reviewing sales and purchase transactions, reconciling your bank accounts, and inventory reevaluation. Additionally, we will also touch upon important compliance measures, including your BAS generation and filing, and currency adjustment to ensure that your financial records are accurate and up to date. The year-end closing is not just about wrapping things up, but it is also about preparing for a smooth start to a new fiscal year. So we'll discuss a few tips which will help your business to start on the right foot. Without any further delay, let us quickly dive into the session. For any business, the key transactions are your sales and purchases. So first, let's understand what are the tasks to be taken care of in the sales module. The invoices that we raise for customers serve as the main source of income that we receive. So there might be chances wherein you would have created a transaction but not sent or emailed it to your customer. So these will remain as draft transactions. To view such transactions, you can click on the filter icon here, choose draft filter, and this will list all the transactions which have been created but are yet to be sent to the end customer. These transactions might have gone through an internal approval, or they might have been held up for certain internal reasons, and you might have missed to send them to your customers. So these transactions can be reviewed and you can send it across to your customers or carry it forward to the next financial year. You can also use the advanced search option to filter out the transactions specific to the previous fiscal year. So here you can enter the date range. So you can set the start date as 1st of July, 2024. the end date as 30th of June 25, the status as draft, and hit search. This will accurately list all the drafted transactions for the pre-financial year alone. Similarly, you might have created sales orders but missed to invoice them. For example, I have received a sales order from a customer which is also confirmed but hasn't been invoiced. So you can click on one such confirmed sales order and you can either create an instant invoice or you can follow the shipment process. That is, create the package, shipment, and then the invoice. The other transactions which you might miss relate to your time tracking module, wherein you might tend to forget to invoice your billable project timesheets. So let's assume that I have logged in timesheets for various projects, but I have not yet invoiced it to the customers. So in that case, I can review and invoice them. For example, this particular timesheet has been approved internally, but is still unbilled. So I can select this timesheet, click on create invoice, email it across to the customer and get paid for. Next up, we have recurring transactions. Recurring profiles are created when the same type of transactions reoccur over a specific period. For example, you might have rented out a property and been receiving rent from your tenant. Since this will recur, say every month or year, so instead of manually creating the same invoice every month or year, I will create one recurring invoice profile and have them auto-generated by the system periodically. Now let's assume that the rental agreement has lapsed and you will not be receiving any further rent from the particular customer. In that case, you can choose to stop the cycle here. Or if there has been a revision, you can clone and modify the profile as required. For example, if the rent value has been increased, I can simply clone it, create a new recurring profile. So you can enter the new profile name here. Enter the updated rental value. And save. Now that we have reviewed all the transactions, next we need to check what are the invoices that are pending payments. I have created all the transactions and I have sent them across to the customers, but there might be certain transactions that a customer would have missed making the payment for. For example, let's take a look at this transaction that is overdue by 5 days and the customer has not yet made the payment. So you can send a reminder about the pending invoice payment to the customer through email or WhatsApp and get paid for. Or if the customer has already made any advance payments and you have missed to apply them, then you can also get it checked. In order to view the advance or down payments received from your customers and identify what is unused, you can go to the reports module, prefer the customer balance summary report under the receivables category. On this report, the invoiced amount, the amount received, and the closing balance columns will be available by default. The unused advance payment, credit note balance, and journal credit columns can be added by navigating to the customized report columns here. As you can see, you have a lot of options available that can be added to the report as columns to get the required details. With this report, I will get a fair idea of what the unused advance payments or credit notes are, which is basically the credits available for a particular customer that was not used or marked as refunded. For example, if you take the customer Abby, the invoiced amount is $2,288, whereas the amount received is only $687. But as you can see, there is a lot of unused advance payment and credit notes available. So I'll have to apply these to any due invoices that might be present for the customer before sending out the payment reminders to them. Once all the invoice payments have been collected, You could still have certain invoices that have been pending for a long duration, or certain invoices for which the payment is never going to come through, or instances wherein you have stopped the business with a particular customer. In these circumstances, you will need to write off such invoices. First, to figure out the long pending invoices, you can again head over to the reports module and refer the AR aging details report, which is again available under the receivables category. You can run the report as on 30th June 2025, and you can identify the invoices that have been pending for a long period. For example, let's take a look at this first invoice, which has been pending for over 893 days, and I have stopped business with this particular customer. So this invoice payment is never going to come through. So in this case, I can write off this invoice by clicking on the record payment button here, write off, specify the reason, and click on write off. Now this invoice will be automatically tracked as a bad debt. Till now, we have seen what are the steps to be followed or what are the tasks to be reviewed in your sales module. Next, let's quickly check the purchases module. In the purchases module, we tend to create our expenses and bills. So there might be a fair chance that we would have missed to create some of our bills or expenses. We would have received the bill PDF or expense receipt from our vendors, but could have forgotten to add them as transactions in Zoho Books. You might have simply stored them as documents. So you can head over to the documents module and review if any of the bills or expenses are yet to be accounted for in Zoho Books. So if any bill is pending, you can hover the cursor over the said bill, click on add to, and create a new bill directly from here. Or you can go to the bills and expenses module and create the required transactions respectively. Just like how we settled our customer advances and credits earlier, we will have to handle any unused credits and advances for vendors as well. Let's assume that I have made some advance payment to a vendor, but I've missed to update it on my bills. So rather than making the bill payment directly first, we need to settle off the advances and the credits available. Similar to how we check the customer balance summary report for our customers, for vendors, we have the vendor balance summary report. This will be available under the payables category. Again, here you can add the unused advance payment available credits columns from the customized report column section. This report will help us to identify the unused credits we have with a particular vendor, which then can be applied to any unpaid or partially paid bills under the said vendor. So far, we have recorded all the vendor bill payments or applied credits and closed the bills. Now let's assume that you have purchased something from a vendor, but the business has stopped or we're not going to make the payment to the vendor. In that case, you will have to write off the particular bill. So here I have made some purchases from this vendor, but moving forward, I will not be making any more purchases from them. So in that case, I need to write off the bills. In order to write off the bills, we'll have to create vendor credits. To do so, you can click on the bill and then click on the More button here, create vendor credits, and you can have this automatically applied to the specific bill. Or you can go to the vendor credits module and create a new vendor credit. Select the vendor here, enter the description, select the required account, enter the rate, tax if any, and you can proceed to create the vendor credit. Once this is done, you can directly apply this credit to any of your pending bills and have them written off. As you can see, the bill has now been marked as paid. Now that we've covered sales and purchases, next let's move on to the items module. Items are the products which you sell or purchase. You might have added inventory items to track their stock in Zoho Books. So in that case, let's assume you have certain stock on hand, but you will have to reevaluate the stock due to some reason. Like there might be some lost stock, or the goods might have been damaged, or there can be a value reevaluation which you'll have to take. So to understand what stock you currently have on hand and what reevaluations are to be done, you can always refer the inventory valuation summary report. You can navigate to the reports module and you will find the inventory valuation summary report under the inventory category. This report will give us an idea of the stock quantity we currently hold on hand and what is the inventory asset value of the stock. For example, this particular item, granite, I currently have 83 items on hand, but the actual item which I have is just 80 as 3 have been damaged. So in this case, I can create an inventory adjustment by going to the items module, inventory adjustment, create a new adjustment, which would be a quantity-based adjustment, enter the date, choose the account, here choose the reason. You can set the location, which can either be a business location or warehouse location. Here you can choose the item from your inventory list, enter the new quantity on hand, and proceed to post the adjustment. So now if I check the inventory report for the particular item, the stocks will be written off, and again, the inventory values will be reevaluated. So this is currently under progress. So once this is reevaluated, the inventory stock will get updated on this report. Apart from quantity adjustments, you can also post value adjustments when the stock quantity remains the same, but the value of the item changes. For example, the current value of this item, granite, is $1,245, but the actual value has come down to $1,200. So in this case, I can pass a value adjustment wherein the stock will remain the same, but the asset value of the stock will get updated. So once this is done, the inventory value will get adjusted accordingly. There could be certain items in your inventory that you might not use any further because the items must have been stopped from the market, or for any other reasons you have stopped the sale and purchase of those items. So in order to prevent any future transactions with those items, you can mark them as inactive. So you can select the respective items and click on the Mark as Inactive button here. Marking them as inactive will prevent you from creating future transactions, and the existing transactions will remain as such. So the next module which we're going to look at is the most important module, which is your accounting module. In the accounting module, we can review what are the different accounts that we have, and in case we're not going to use any of the accounts, then we can mark them as inactive. For example, I have created this loan account to track my loans, but now that I've cleared off the debts, I can mark it as inactive as I'll not be using this account any further. To do so, you can simply select the account and mark as inactive. Also, in certain cases, during the year-end review, you might notice that you have created the transactions under the wrong account. For example, I have few expenses which have to be tracked in the janitorial expense account, but instead I have recorded them against a wrong account called office supplies. Now I'll have to update all the transactions, but manually updating each of the transactions is a very tedious and difficult process, right? So instead, you can update all the transactions in bulk using the bulk update feature here. You can click on filter and bulk update. Select the incorrect account. In my case, it would be office supplies. Set any other criteria as needed and hit search. So here you can select all the transactions which need to be updated and click on update. Now I can select the correct account, janitorial expense, hit replace. Once this is done, the transactions will be updated with the new account. This is an irreversible process, so make sure that you always sit with your accountant before you bulk update any of your accounts. Another important task which you'll have to do at the end of the financial year is currency adjustment. So what is a currency adjustment and why you will have to do it? If the base currency of your book's organization is Australian dollars, but you have transactions in other currencies, like say USD, dirhams, etc., then in that case, the exchange rates keep fluctuating every day. For example, you might have created transactions on the 1st of April this year. So each day, the transaction value will keep changing because of exchange rate fluctuation. So to post a new currency adjustment, you can click on the new button here, choose the currency. In my case, it would be USD, and the date of adjustment, which will be 30th of June. So the exchange rate will be automatically populated here, but you can always change this and use your required value. You can enter the notes and click on continue. So once done, all the unpaid transactions under sales and purchases, that is your account receivables, your payables, and also the bank accounts with a particular currency will get listed. You can select which transactions you would like to reevaluate, and you can click on make an adjustment. So this page will give you an idea of what is the balance in USD, your current balance in your base currency, as well as the revalued balance. From this, you can infer if you will be making an exchange gain or exchange loss. And once you click on make an adjustment, this adjustment will be done and all the exchange gain or loss will be tracked in the exchange gain or loss account under your chart of accounts. Now that we have reviewed all the transactions, the next important module which we'll have to go through is the banking module. So you might add your bank accounts, match and categorize transactions, and finally reconcile them to determine if your bank transactions and transactions in Zoho Books are in tandem. For example, let's take a look at this bank account. I've added this bank account and I'm managing my transactions here, but I have certain uncategorized transactions, which means the bank statements have been imported or fetched, but have not been categorized or matched with any entries in Zoho Books. So these uncategorized transactions will not have any impact on the reports in Zoho Books. So first and foremost, you need to match and categorize all the uncategorized bank statements that are available here. You can either manually categorize or match them, or you can create transaction rules based on certain criteria and have the system recognize or automatically categorize for you. Now let's assume that I have certain income which can be identified based on payee name or the amount. In that case, I can create a transaction rule by clicking on the gear icon here. Manage transaction rules. So that if there are any uncategorized transactions that match any of the rule criteria, they will be automatically categorized or shown as recognized transactions. So you can set up transaction rules if you have any recurring bank statements that can be identified with the payee name, description, reference number, or amount. So these can be used as criteria. You can record them as other income, interest income, sales without invoices, etc. And if you scroll down, you can choose to either show them as recognized transactions, or you can have the system categorize them automatically for you. Once all the transactions are categorized and matched, they will be moved to the All Transactions tab here. After matching and categorizing, the next important step is to reconcile the account. So why do you have to reconcile the account? Once you do the reconciliation for a specific period, you will understand that your bank balance in Zoho Books and your Zoho Books balance match. and all the transactions in the corresponding period will be logged. To proceed with this, you can click on the gear icon here, reconcile account, reconcile now. You can enter the start date, the end date, the closing balance as on the end date, and hit start reconciliation. Now all the unreconciled transactions will be available. You can select the required transactions here. If the closing balance and the cleared amount match with each other, then the difference will be zero, which indicates that your bank balance and the Zoho Books balance match. So you can click on reconcile, and the selected transactions will be reconciled. Now these reconciled transactions will be denoted with the green tick next to them, and they cannot be altered or edited. You will have to delete or undo the reconciliation to make any changes to the reconciled transactions. Now that we have gone through all the required steps or tasks to be done in sales, purchases, accounting, items, and banking modules, the next step is to lock all the transactions in Zoho Books. To lock your transactions, you can navigate to Accounting module, Transaction Locking, and here you can choose to lock the individual modules such as your sales, purchases, banking with different lock dates, or you can lock all of them at once. For example, if you have completed reviewing your sales and purchase modules, you can choose to lock only the two of them. Or if you're done reviewing all the modules, then you can proceed to lock all the transactions at once by clicking on the Switch to Lock All Transactions option here. You can click on Lock, choose the lock date. All transactions recorded before the lock date will be locked and cannot be edited or deleted. For example, if you want to lock all the transactions for the last fiscal year, then you can set the lock date as 1st of July 2025. You can enter the reason and proceed to lock your transactions. Once you've recorded and reviewed all your sales, purchase, and banking transactions, you can then proceed to generate the BAS returns in Zoho Books. To do so, you can head over to Reports, and you will find the BAS report under the Taxes category here. Here you can view the list of all your existing BAS returns along with details such as the tax return period, when the return was filed, the tax payable or claimable, as well as balance due, if any. To generate a new return, you can click on the Generate New BAS button here, and the return for the specific tax period would be generated. All the sales and purchase transactions for the said period that have tax or tax exemption associated with them would automatically be allotted to the corresponding BAS labels. If you wish to include your previous period's unfiled transactions in this BAS, then you can go ahead and enable this toggle. Once you've lodged the BAS return with the ATO, you can mark the BAS as filed in Books. So you can select the date of filing, choose the adjustment account, and mark as filed. You can then proceed to record payment or tax claim accordingly. So you can click on the drop-down arrow here next to the return, record claim. You can choose the deposit to account, enter the amount reclaimed, and hit save. If you wish to unfile a previous period BAS, then you must first delete all the BAS returns succeeding it, starting from the top of the list. For example, I want to unfile my December 2024 BAS return, so I must delete the return succeeding it, starting from the most recent one. If there is a tax payment or claim recorded against the BAS return, that is, the balance due is 0, the payment or claim needs to be first deleted. You can do so by going to the Accounting module, Tax Payments, Payment History. You can delete the payment or claim. Once done, you can head back to the BAS reports. You can proceed to delete the corresponding return. Now I can click on the December 2024 return and mark this as unfiled. Until now, we've covered all the steps to close the financial year. The next step is to schedule the required reports. So Zoho Books offers 70 plus diverse reports that have been grouped into different categories like business, sales, inventory, etc. for better usability. These reports can be scheduled and be automatically emailed periodically to specific users or recipients. For example, to schedule the PL report to be sent to your business stakeholders, you can navigate to the PL report. You can click on the schedule report button here, set the frequency, enter the start date and time. Here you can choose the email recipients from your user list, or if they are not part of your organization, then you can add them as additional recipients. You can attach the report as either PDF or Excel, and you can hit save. Once the report is scheduled, it will reach the respective mailboxes on the set frequency. This not only applies to your business overview reports, but you can schedule a lot of other reports as well. For instance, if your warehouse team would like to review the inventory, then you can schedule the inventory reports. Or if your AR team would like to view the pending invoices, then the AR aging details report can be scheduled. Finally, I would like to highlight how Zoho Books helps you to seamlessly manage your year-end. In Zoho Books, you need not manually close your books of accounts and enter the balances for the next year. The closing of books will be taken care of by the system, and all the closing balances as on 30th June 2025 will be carried forward as opening balances on 1st of July 2025. So far, we have gone through all the required steps to close the financial year. Let us now see what has to be done before getting started with the new financial year. We will have to first update the transaction number series. Transaction number series allow you to create different sequences of transaction numbers with unique prefixes for your various transaction types. So to update them, you can head over to Settings, Customization, Transaction Number Series. And if you'd like to reset the series and start the new financial year with the number 1, then you can use this option. Here we also have the option to insert placeholders such as fiscal year start, fiscal year end, transaction date, etc. This will be a one-time process and the series will get reset automatically based on the placeholders chosen. This feature is available on the Elite and Ultimate plans of Zoho Books. If you are on the premium plan, then you will need to renumber the series manually. Moving on, the next important step is to transfer or share your profit. At the end of the financial year, we might have either incurred a profit or loss. In Zoho Books, we have an account called Retained Earnings, and it is in this account that the profit or loss will be automatically tracked. If you'd like to share the profits with the owners or with your business stakeholders, you can create a manual journal to transfer the profit from the retained earnings to the owner's equity account. To do so, you can head over to the accountant module, manual journal, create a new journal. So here you can set the date as 1st of July 2025. You can enter the notes, choose the required account. In this case, it will be retained earnings and the required owner's equity account. So this will transfer the profit from the retained earnings account to the required owner's equity account. Following the transfer of profit, we can then proceed to configure the budgets. You can create a budget at the start of the fiscal year to ensure that you have proper financial flow throughout the year. So you can head over to budgets under the accounting module, click on new, enter the budget name here, choose the fiscal year, set the budget period, which can be monthly, quarterly, half yearly, or yearly. You can then add the required income accounts, add the expense accounts, and you also have the option to include asset, liability, and equity accounts in your budget as well. So now that all the accounts have been added, you can fill the values by either choosing to pre-fill them from the previous year's actuals, or you can use the autofill option. So using autofill, we have certain criteria which can be applied. So you can choose to apply a fixed amount for each period or an adjustment amount. For example, I have applied $1,000 on first period, and let's say it keeps increasing at a rate of $100 per month. Then you can add it to each period's existing amount or first period's amount. You can also use the adjustment percentage instead of specifying the amount, and this percentage will get applied to the value for each period. Once you have created the budget and added your budgeted values for the required year, you can save the budget. The budgets can be exported and also pre-filled using the import option here. After the budget is created, at any point in time during the fiscal year, you can view the budget versus actuals report to understand if your finances are regulated within the set budget or not. Say, for instance, if it is over budget, it will be indicated in red, and if it is under budget, it will be shown in green. So this brings us to the end of the session. As we wrap up today's webinar, let's take a moment to reflect on the key takeaways of the session. A well-structured year-end closing process is essential for maintaining financial accuracy. And so we have explored the importance of managing your receivables as well as your payables, verifying the reports, re-evaluating your inventory, as well as locking transactions to avoid discrepancies. Also, preparing for the new fiscal year is just as important as the closing balance of the previous one. So updating the transaction number series, distributing your profits, and configuring budgets will help create a strong financial framework for the months to come. So by following these best practices, you can avoid last-minute financial surprises, improve your decision making, and ensure a smooth transition into the next financial cycle. I appreciate your time today, and I hope that this session helped you understand how to navigate your year-end accounting seamlessly with Zoho Books.
I sincerely thank all of you for participating in this webinar. Thank you so much. Your presence were invaluable. With that, I am ending this webinar. Myself, Sendamal, and with me, Busy. We are signing off here from India. Have a great day, Australia. Thank you so much.